This presentation examines the forces of change reshaping business and society. I'll focus on the dynamic relationship between organizations and the environments in which they operate, recognizing that this relationship is constantly evolving. Markets, institutions, communities, and broader social conditions all influence how organizations make decisions and create value. At the same time, organizations help shape the world around them. The central idea is mutual influence. Business environments change organizations, and organizations respond by changing those environments in return. Business and society are not separate systems. They function through mutual interdependence. Businesses rely on society for workers, customers, infrastructure, and the legitimacy to operate. In return, society relies on businesses for employment, innovation, products and services, and tax revenue. This relationship is constantly being renegotiated. Economic conditions, cultural expectations, and political decisions can all change what businesses and communities expect from one another. Recognizing these shifting forces is essential for strategic thinking, because business decisions both respond to society and help shape it. Globalization has expanded the playing field by connecting markets, businesses, and consumers more closely than ever. Market integration allows goods, capital, and labor to move across borders at unprecedented speed, creating opportunity while intensifying competition. At the same time, supply chains now span dozens of countries. That structure can improve efficiency, but it also increases vulnerability when disruptions occur. Finally, cultural exchange is reshaping demand. Consumer preferences are becoming more alike in some ways and more distinct in others, so businesses must combine global scale with local relevance. Technology is perhaps the most relentless force reshaping business and society. The pattern is emergence, adoption, disruption, and transformation. New technologies first appear, then gain traction, challenge established models, and ultimately change how organizations operate. We can see this progression in artificial intelligence, automation, blockchain, and biotechnology, where innovation cycles are accelerating dramatically. AI is redefining work, decision-making, and customer experience. Automation is displacing routine jobs while creating new roles, and digital platforms have already upended entire industries almost overnight. The key challenge is adapting quickly enough to turn disruption into meaningful transformation. This slide highlights 3 demographic and social shifts reshaping business. Generational change is moving millennials and Gen Z into a larger share of the workforce, with stronger expectations for purpose, flexibility, and ethical behavior. At the same time, growing diversity is raising the bar for how companies represent people in leadership, workplace culture, and products. And in many economies, aging populations are changing the available labor force, increasing healthcare demand, and influencing consumption. Together, these trends are pushing organizations to rethink how they operate, serve customers, and adapt their business models. Environmental pressures have moved firmly into the center of business strategy. Climate change, resource scarcity, and ecological degradation now create direct risks, while also defining corporate responsibilities. Regulations are becoming more demanding through measures such as carbon taxes and ESG reporting. At the same time, consumers are rewarding sustainable brands. Investors are screening companies based on environmental performance, and polluters face growing reputational costs. The key takeaway is that sustainability is no longer just a compliance exercise. Companies that build it into strategy can create a lasting competitive advantage. Political and regulatory forces shape business conditions in ways organizations cannot afford to treat as background noise. Government policy and legislation directly influence operations through taxation, trade agreements, antitrust enforcement, and labor law. At the same time, political instability and geopolitical tensions, including trade wars and armed conflict, introduce uncertainty that must be reflected in strategy and risk management. Finally, regulatory expansion is creating additional complexity, especially around data privacy, financial oversight, and AI governance. Businesses need to monitor these developments proactively and adapt before compliance requirements become operational problems. Economic forces operate on multiple timescales. Long-term structural shifts can gradually transform markets, while sudden shocks can reshape them almost overnight. The key is strategic adaptability. Businesses must respond to cycles of expansion and recession, while also recognizing how inequality changes consumer segments and can contribute to social unrest. Financial crises, including 2008 and COVID-19, can permanently alter business models. At the same time, inflation and interest rates influence investment decisions, pricing, and demand, making economic conditions a central factor in both short-term choices and long-term planning. The relationship between business and society is being redefined. Stakeholder capitalism expands accountability beyond shareholders to include the people and communities affected by corporate decisions. Employees are seeking fair pay, psychological safety, flexibility, and purpose. Customers want ethical sourcing, privacy, transparency, and responsible behavior. Communities are watching a company's environmental footprint and economic contribution. And investors are increasingly using ESG considerations to guide capital allocation and shareholder activism. Together, these pressures are reshaping the social contract and changing what responsible business leadership looks like. Leading organizations treat disruption as an ongoing strategic challenge, not a one-time emergency. The goal is to build dynamic capabilities that support continuous anticipation, adaptation, and innovation. That starts with scanning the environment and using scenario planning to recognize early signals. Organizations then need agile structures that shorten response time while realigning strategy, culture, and capabilities as conditions change. Finally, they create new value through innovation, purpose-driven cultures, and partnerships across sectors. This approach turns uncertainty into an opportunity for resilience, learning, and systemic solutions. The key takeaway is that change is constant and the business-society relationship is continuously renegotiated. These forces are interconnected. Technology, climate, demographics, politics, and economics influence one another. Businesses that monitor these shifts systematically, rather than reacting late, turn strategic awareness into a competitive advantage.